2 out of 5 jobs in Ireland are set to disappear or change substantially over the next 20 years because of increasing automation. So what types of jobs are under threat? You might be surprised when you hear it. And what do you need to consider if you're thinking that your job could be one of those that's about to disappear and you might want to make a jump to a new career? To discuss all of this, I'm joined now by Peter Cosgrove, who is the future of work expert and friend of Lunchtime Live. Peter, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
I was reading this article and I thought it was fascinating because, you know, you can kind of all imagine that factory jobs and manufacturing jobs and all that, the amount of human input there is going to continue to go down and down. But other things that they suggested that automation was likely to change or get rid of was education, health, social work, information technology and communications. I would have thought things like communications were very much a human-based sort of a job. And it turns out I'm totally wrong.
No, you're not wrong. What this is parts of nearly every industry will change because of technology. So one part of communications is writing articles. And there are very plain articles already written by computers that say give financial results at the end of the day. And they will now be written by an algorithm rather than a person. But that's not going to change the fact that creative writing and interesting articles by people with good opinions and good ideas and curiosity are still going to be needed. So whatever industry it is, some jobs will go because of technology and some jobs won't. It's not like an industry is going to go. The challenge we're going to have is, as you say, more in the manufacturing area where lots of those jobs will go robots. When it comes to the more professional services jobs, it's probably more about artificial intelligence where that's going to come and take jobs, and it'll happen quite seamlessly. We won't really notice it, but it will happen. But the one thing I'd say to people is it's not really your whole job that'll go. It's probably parts of your job. And hopefully, as an optimist, it'll be the boring parts of your job.
Okay. Well, that sounds quite appealing, actually. So what you're saying is some jobs, yes, will be replaced. So you won't have, people lugging things and moving them from one conveyor belt to another.
Yeah.
You'll have some kind of weird robot hoist or whatever. We can all sort of imagine that. But for other people, it's not so much a replacement. Is it a reimagining or a reconfiguring of their job that's going to happen?
A good example is when the spreadsheet happened, which is, 20, 30 years ago, people said, well, now all accountants' jobs are going to go because it actually took an accountant 2 days to put a spreadsheet together before there was a spreadsheet. So once it happened, they said, oh my God, we can now do this in 10 minutes. But all that happened is all the clients now asked for lots more information from their accountants, and the accountants moved more from data entry people to advisors. And there's actually a lot more accountants. There's very few bookkeepers, so people who literally write down numbers. That's now done. But nobody really probably enjoyed the inputting of numbers and calculating. We're very happy for a computer to do that. But when it comes to a client asking you questions, what's going to happen if I raise my prices by 5%, or if I give my whole staff a 4% pay rise, how will that affect profitability? You want to chat to somebody about that and get some advice. And the spreadsheet will help you, but you need the human input.
Okay, so you might use the spreadsheet to work out what's going to happen if you give everyone a 4, or you might use your calculator or your whatever. But somebody to interpret the data and say to you, look, what this actually means in effect is you will have to do this and that and the other.
And how your people might feel about that. So the numbers are still the numbers, but it's just data. There's a whole other piece. So when you talk about communications, a robot can write a communication, probably very well written communication. It probably can't tell you how people are going to talk about it at the water cooler later that day and how that might affect productivity, the culture of the organisation, because people are really complicated. And that's the really good news.
So is this in a way... Yes, a good thing because it's about the stratification of work. So what is, as you say, menial or repetitive or predictable in our jobs will all be done by some kind of clever AI thing. But the actual higher functioning analysis and thought and all of that stuff, do you believe that will remain with humans as opposed to our new robot overlords whom clearly we welcome?
Well, the downside is it's not going to be equally distributed. So some people are going to find it's great, but there will be a lot of people out there who will suffer. Not today, but in 20, 30 years' time. If you're 55, 60 and you've been a taxi driver for 20 years and just at the time, which will probably be about 15, 20 years time, although it sounds from your previous conversation that we could do with some robot taxis. When that happens, they're going to have to reskill because eventually there will be no taxi drivers. But what people need to realize is this doesn't happen overnight. We don't suddenly just get, driverless cars. It's been happening already and will happen for the next 20 years. So you've 20 years. So what most people need to do today is start thinking, what part of my job is potentially going to be taken over? Am I continuing to learn? Am I continuing to broaden my skill sets? Because guess what? This isn't the generation before us where you went to college for 4 years and then you worked for the next 40. You probably go to college, you might have to continue to learn throughout your life.
I want to come to the reskilling thing in just a second, Peter, but someone says automated tills are already putting people on the dole. I hate these machines. There's no human interaction. And that's true. You see that in all the supermarkets. You just slide the thing through yourself and get, stick in your credit card at the end.
Although the comedians will say the joke is there's 2 people at the automated one and only 1 person at the normal one trying to explain to everybody how it works. But eventually,
in time, it will change. Someone else, is sales okay? I'd imagine sales is okay because a lot of people, it's a bit like politicians trying to get elected. The actual human interaction is very effective, isn't it?
Sales is okay. However, there is lots of parts of sales, which is how you work out a purchase. If you think about Amazon now being able to tell you what you want, so you might need less salespeople to actually push things at you because now it's working out what you want. So part of sales won't be, but the human interaction about actually influencing, persuading, exciting, that's going to still rest with humans.
I think you're right, by the way. I think taxis will become obsolete when there's driverless cars. People will actually prefer to just get into a car by themselves and not have to interact with anyone because they might be tired or they might have work to do or whatever, and it'll feel like a safe option. You'll jump in, you'll put in your destination into a GPS and off you'll go. So I think you're right. You can almost predict some things like that. And someone else has said, Ciara, I'd love to change my career. I work in an office environment and every day feels the same and I'm so sick of it. I don't know where to start on finding out what I want to do, but also how to go about it. For people, Peter, who are, doesn't matter whether the reason they want to change careers is automation coming down the line or not, there are always people who feel that it's time for a change for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're stuck in a rut, or maybe they just like the idea of something new. I mean, I'm the master of career changes, considering I've gone from something completely different to this. And that wasn't because I didn't like the old thing. That was like about trying a new thing. What should people do if they are listening to us now and they're sitting in their office or in their shop or in their wherever they're working and they are going, God, I hate it here. How do you make that jump?
Well, okay, the first thing is, even though you've gone from something very different, the guarantee is it didn't happen overnight. People might have seen it, but they wouldn't have seen all the work that in how you started. So nobody is going to move from a job they don't like to their best job ever overnight. It's almost, unless somebody literally comes and says, could you do this job? And you're, oh my God, that's a job of my dreams. So what you need to do is try things. Try things that don't work and then try things that do. So in your current job, look at different areas of the business. Let's say I'm a bit more interested in marketing, or I like the sales. While I'm doing my job, could I get a bit more involved in that? So you could get an internal move within the organization. Secondly, if that's not good for you, you need to try something else. So when people say, I can never leave my job, anyone can leave your job. It's all about whether you are willing to take the sacrifice of maybe earning a little bit less money in the short term, but you will guarantee earn more money in the long term. Because if you hate your job now, I'm guaranteeing your chance of promotion, your chance of getting a pay rise is pretty poor, because I'm guessing the attitude isn't great. So it's one of those things we're stuck in a rut and we always say we can't. Everybody can. It's a choice of what you will put up with. So the last thing I'd say is then look at the skills you have. Everybody has a lot of transferable skills. They're not very good at working out what they are. So ask other people what you're good at, and you might find that there's lots of skills you can work which will work in a completely different industry.
Yeah. This is Ciara here in Newstalk. 53106 is the text line. We're talking about, first of all, robots taking over our jobs, which Anna said we do welcome our overlords. But also we're talking about what do you want to do if you want to change jobs. How do you go about this? Lots of people texting. Someone says, if you work one of these jobs, where do you start changing job or career? Retraining, upskilling? Would you stay in a similar industry or start from scratch? Jerry says, Ciara, could you get a robot to read my wife's mind? I would love one of those. And B says, I'm a plumber. Good luck getting a robot to do my job. I bet you there'll probably be some parts of B's job that will become automated, because that's just how these things go. You're quite right. My overnight transfer from one profession to another, if you like, took about a decade. But for me, what I did was I started doing little bits on top of my work. So rather than me taking a pay cut, what I actually did was I ended up working far too much for a fairly long period of time before I was able to kind of decide which fork in the road I was going to take. Do people sometimes need to sort of do things like that maybe on top of your current job, maybe you need to reach out and do something at the weekends or in evenings, or sort of shimmy sideways towards the work that they are interested in, even if it's unpaid or it's, menial to start off with or what have you.
And I think the bit that people need to be aware of is, and they might be listening and going, yeah, but I don't know what it is I want to do. Well,
Lots of people are actually testing that exact thing.
The best person to know what you want to do is you. No one's going to tell you. People might say, you'd be great at this. You'll know if you're great at it. But what people will tell you in all these career books you read is there are things that you love to do. Right? In your spare time, people joke and say, when you're in the shower, you're sitting in the toilet, your mind wanders to places. Where does it wander? So start writing down things. What do I get lost in? What if I just spent 3 hours reading and I didn't even know the time had passed? What are the things I love to do, like taking a bike apart and putting it back together? Why do I like doing that and everybody else hates it? Why can I look at colour palettes for 8 hours about painting houses and no one else would care about this? So you do find that you have interests that other people don't have. That isn't going to find you your job, but the more of those you start to list down, these are the things I like, these are the things that I'm passionate about. Then when you said, Ciara, you're going to do extra work, you're actually enjoying it. So when you go start doing things that you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. And that's why there's this whole myth about people working too hard. When people love what they do and they find meaning in it, of course they work hard, but they don't really see it as work. That's a much shorter day than someone who only works 9 to 5 but hates what they do. So you have to start writing down what you do and then try things, but be prepared for the things you try to go, you know what? So when I was young, I said, I want to go into sports, consultancy and, manage Tiger Woods. Wouldn't we all? Right? And then you realize there's only really 2 jobs in that. There's accounting jobs and legal jobs. They're the jobs that are there. There's one handler for these sports stars and everyone else isn't buying. So someone just said, oh, well, are you an accountant or a lawyer? So you very quickly go, okay, that's not, but at least get the no. Or realise, actually, I still want to do it and I'm going to become an accountant or a lawyer.
Are a lot of people afraid, particularly at a certain point in their lives when maybe they're okay in, they may be on top of their game in whatever they're doing, even if they don't like it. But are they afraid to try something new and fail? Because, truthfully, we all fail all the time. Every day we fall flat in our face. We make an absolute idiot of ourselves. And there are things, particularly when we start doing them, that we're not very good at, because even if we have an aptitude, we don't have any skills or experience or whatever. Should we all just be a little bit more robust about maybe sometimes not being good at things, but sticking with them because we're interested in them?
I think that's part of it. I actually think you need to be more robust about what your parents, your colleagues and friends are saying. So what are you doing now? Why have you changed? What's in it for you? Why would you do this? There's no jobs in that for you. And that can actually be very draining. People don't really like often to see other people changing jobs or careers or reinventing themselves.
Why is that?
Because, it's a bit like when you decide to give up drink for a few months. It's reflecting on the other person. Why are you giving up drink? You want to drink? Go and have one drink because I'm still drinking.
Why are you improving your life when I'm not improving my life kind of thing?
We don't mean to do it. And it's not us being begrudgers. It's just a little bit of a, I've always thought about doing something different, but I haven't, and this person is. So you don't do it on purpose, but you're almost reflecting your concerns of, what if you don't get the job? What if you don't have, what about pension? What about your family? What if it fails? So what people need to realize is we've never had a better time to be doing this because we've got the lowest unemployment ever. You can always find a job. It doesn't mean you love a job, but if you're at least starting a journey, there's a book that only came out last year called Designing Your Life, which is 2 Stanford professors who've taken a very engineering approach to finding a new job, which is excellent. But one of the key things is you just have to try prototypes, try things. And guess what? They'll fail. But then you try again and you get closer. It's this idea that I have to wake up tomorrow and now realise I want to open a flower shop in Connemara and that's my dream job. You open it and 6 months later you go, actually, I love flowers. I hate customers. And that's what would happen. So you don't start by doing it. You start by working in a flower shop and within a week going, you know what? This isn't for me. Maybe I want to work in botanic gardens, and then you try that. But it's that sort of a way because we all think we know what other people do. And then we go, this isn't actually what I thought. I'm sure people have a view of what radio is. And then they come in and go, that's not what I thought it was. So I think it's about trying those things. So as I said, you might just go in doing a fairly menial job or something for free, but at least you'll understand what the job entails. All
right. Thank you for that. Indeed, that is Peter Cosgrove, future of work expert. So many people getting involved on it. Someone says, hi. And someone says, accounting and law are predicted to be obsolete. So is any repetitive job. That may be true. I don't know. Someone says, this will disproportionately affect those who have had the capacity to do bookkeeping, but not the capacity to do an accountant. We need these jobs to ensure that all people in society have their skills and capacities used. I don't think that's how it works. And someone else says, people should welcome automation. Luddite thinking is for the birds. We need to enrich our lives with less work. Oscar Wilde was right when he said, whoever calls a spade should be forced to use one. I like that a lot.